When a liberal TV host tried to trap Melania Trump with provocative questions about her marriage and feelings for Donald Trump, he never expected her to turn the tables with a shocking response. But before we dive in, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Now, picture this: a brightly lit television studio in the heart of Manhattan. The cameras are rolling, the audience is settled in their seats, and there sits Melania Trump, poised and elegant, in a pristine white dress that seems to reflect her grace. The host, known for his provocative interview style with conservative guests, welcomes her with a smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. At first, everything seems normal, just another high-profile interview on another busy day in the media circuit. But there's something in the air, a tension that's about to explode into one of the most memorable moments in recent television history. The audience watches intently as Melania gracefully crosses her legs at the ankles, her posture reflecting years of experience in the spotlight. But there's something different about her today, a quiet strength that seems more pronounced than usual. Perhaps she can sense what's coming. The studio lights cast a warm glow across the set, but the atmosphere is anything but cozy. The host, leaning forward in his chair, carries himself with the smug confidence of someone who thinks he's about to deliver a groundbreaking exposé. Little does he know, he's walking straight into a trap of his own making. You can feel it in the air, that electric tension before a storm breaks. The audience, mostly composed of the host's regular viewers, shifts uncomfortably in their seats. They've seen his infamous gotcha moments before, but something tells them this time might be different. As the cameras roll, the host begins with what seems like casual small talk. "Mrs. Trump, thank you for being here today," he says, his voice carrying that practiced smoothness of a seasoned interviewer. But there's an undertone there, a subtle hint of condescension that doesn't go unnoticed by Melania. Her slight smile never wavers, but those who know her well would recognize the steel entering her eyes. She is about to reveal a side that few have ever seen. The first few minutes follow the expected pattern of any high-profile interview. The host inquires about Melania's Be Best initiative, her work with children, and her ongoing charitable efforts. She speaks passionately about cyberbullying prevention and the importance of supporting America's youth. "I believe every child deserves a chance to thrive," Melania explains, her accent adding warmth to her words. "When we invest in our children, we invest in America's future." The audience nods approvingly, some even applauding spontaneously at her genuine commitment. But then comes a subtle shift in the host's demeanor. His questions, while still professionally framed, begin carrying hints of skepticism. "That's fascinating," he interjects, his tone suggesting otherwise. Some critics have questioned the sincerity of your philanthropic work, suggesting it's more about image than impact. Melania's response is characteristically measured, but there's an edge to her voice now. "Those who question sincerity often reveal more about themselves than others," she replies, maintaining direct eye contact. "The children and families we've helped, their stories speak louder than any critic." The host's expression tightens, almost imperceptibly. He shuffles his note cards, clearly thrown off by her composed retort. The audience picks up on the subtle power shift. The murmur of conversation grows slightly louder, and several people exchange knowing glances. This isn't going according to the script, and everyone can sense it. As he moves to his next line of questioning, his voice takes on a more challenging tone. The topic turns to her role as First Lady, and the real interrogation begins. The host leans forward, adopting what he probably believes is a look of sincere curiosity. "You've had quite a journey from Slovenia to the White House." "That must have been challenging," he says, his emphasis on the last word hanging in the air, loaded with insinuation. "Every journey has its challenges," Melania responds, her voice steady. "But America is a land of opportunities. I've been blessed to live the American dream." She pauses, then adds with quiet conviction, "And I have worked hard for everything I've achieved." "Indeed," the host continues, his tone growing bolder. "But surely being married to Donald Trump opened doors that wouldn't have been available otherwise." The audience stirs at this more direct approach. Melania's expression doesn't change, but something flashes in her eyes. Not anger, but determination. "My husband and I built our life together," she states firmly, "each of us bringing our own strengths to our partnership. Partnership. The host seizes on the word, clearly thinking he's found an opening. That's an interesting choice of words. Some would say it's more of a business arrangement. The temperature in the room seems to drop several degrees. A few audience members shift uncomfortably in their seats, aware they're witnessing something unprecedented. Melania uncrosses and recrosses her ankles, her only visible reaction to the increasingly hostile line of questioning. "You know," she begins, her voice carrying a new edge of steel beneath its usual grace. "I find it fascinating how some people claim to champion women's independence yet question every choice a strong woman makes." Her gaze holds the host's, unwavering. Perhaps we should discuss why that is. The host blinks first, clearly unprepared for this level of pushback. But instead of backing down, he decides to double down, a decision he'll soon regret. "So let's talk about your relationship with Donald Trump," the host says, dropping any pretense of subtlety. "How would you describe your marriage as someone who's constantly in the spotlight, constantly surrounded by controversy?" Melania's response comes with quiet confidence. "My husband is a man of action and conviction. When you stand for something, controversy follows. We knew this path wouldn't be easy, but we walk it together." "Together," the host repeats, a hint of skepticism in his voice. "But isn't it difficult being married to someone so polarizing? Someone who attracts so much criticism?" "You seem very focused on the negatives," Melania observes, her accent becoming slightly more pronounced as she continues. "Let me tell you what the media doesn't show. A man who wakes up every day thinking about how to make this country better. A father who, despite his busy schedule, always made time for his children. A husband who values loyalty and family above all else." The host shifts in his chair, visibly frustrated by her composed responses. "But surely you must disagree with some of his more controversial statements, his political positions?" "In a healthy marriage, you don't have to agree on everything," she replies. "What matters is respect, understanding, and supporting each other, something that seems to surprise people who view relationships only through political lenses." Several audience members nod in agreement. The host notices this shift in the room's energy and decides to change tactics. His next question comes with a sympathetic smile that doesn't reach his eyes. "You've accomplished so much on your own, your modeling career, your business ventures. Don't you ever feel overshadowed by Donald's larger-than-life personality?" Melania's slight smile takes on an edge of amusement. "You know, it's interesting how some people confuse support with submission or strength with dominance. Perhaps it says more about their view of relationships than about mine." The tension in the studio rises as the host realizes his usual tactics aren't working. His expression hardens, and he prepares to take the interview in a more confrontational direction. "Your success as a model is well documented," the host begins, his tone carrying a subtle condescension. "It must have been quite a transition going from the fashion world to politics." "Every life phase brings its own challenges and rewards," Melania responds coolly. "But I've always believed in growing, learning, adapting. The fashion industry taught me discipline and professionalism, skills that serve me well in any role." "But surely," he presses, "the contrast must be jarring. From modeling in Europe to becoming First Lady of the United States. That's quite a leap." Melania's eyes narrow almost imperceptibly. "You seem very focused on my past career. Should we discuss your journey to this chair, or is scrutiny only interesting when directed at others?" A few nervous chuckles ripple through the audience. The host's smile tightens. "I'm simply trying to understand the dynamics of your relationship," he says. "After all, you moved in very different circles before meeting Donald." "Different circles," Melania repeats, her voice carrying a hint of challenge. "I was a successful businesswoman who spoke languages and had traveled the world. I met Donald as an equal, not as someone looking for a step up." The host's facade of professional curiosity begins to crack. His next words come out sharp, almost accusatory. "But you must admit, marrying Donald Trump changed your life dramatically. The wealth, the influence, the power." "I think," Melania interrupts, her voice quiet but firm, "you're about to cross a line you might regret. But please continue. I'm curious to see where this goes." The studio grows so quiet you could hear a pin drop. The host, momentarily thrown by her direct challenge, makes a fatal mistake. He decides to take it further. Let me be direct then. The host says, any pretense of courtesy now gone. Would you even be with Donald if he wasn't wealthy? If he was just a regular businessman struggling to make ends meet? The audience gasps. Even for this host, known for a provocative style, this crosses a line. But Melania's reaction isn't what anyone expects. Instead of outrage or defensiveness, a small, almost pitying smile crosses her face. You know, she begins, her voice carrying a quiet strength that fills the studio. I've been asked this question before, though usually not so crudely, and it always reveals the same thing, how little people understand about love, commitment, and values. She adjusts her posture slightly, her eyes never leaving the host's face. I had my own successful career. I was financially independent. I could have chosen any path, any life I wanted, but I chose Donald, not his wealth, not his status, but the man himself. The host tries to interject, but Melania continues, her voice growing more passionate yet maintaining its elegance. Let me tell you something about Donald Trump that you won't hear in the media. When we first met, do you know what impressed me most? It wasn't his buildings or his business empire. It was how he spoke about his children, how his eyes lit up when he talked about their achievements, how he taught them the value of hard work and integrity. The host shifts uncomfortably in his chair as Melania leans forward slightly. You see, wealth can buy comfort, but it can't buy character. It can't buy the kind of dedication I've witnessed as Donald worked tirelessly for this country. It can't buy the love I've seen him show his family, his children, and yes, this nation. She pauses, allowing her word to sink in. The audience is completely captivated now, many nodding in agreement. So to answer your question, she continues, yes, I would be with Donald if he had nothing, because what I love about him has nothing to do with his bank account and everything to do with his heart. The host opens his mouth to speak, but the look in Melania's eyes makes him reconsider. He's clearly realizing that his attempt to embarrass her has backfired spectacularly. But you have to admit, the host says, scrambling to regain control, that your lifestyle, the luxury, the privileges, they must play some role in your relationship. You seem very fixated on material things, Melania observes, her tone carrying a gentle rebuke. Is it so hard to believe that two people might share deeper values, that they might build a life together based on mutual respect, shared dreams, and genuine love? The host's professional veneer continues to crack. I'm just trying to understand. No, Melania interrupts, her voice firm but controlled. You're trying to push a narrative. You want to paint me as someone who married for money because that's easier than accepting that a strong, independent woman might choose to stand by her husband out of love and conviction. She straightens in her chair, her presence commanding the room. Let me tell you what luxury really means to me. Luxury is having a partner who supports your dreams while pursuing his own. It's having someone who, despite all the attacks and criticism, never wavers from his principles. It's watching your husband work tirelessly for a country he deeply loves. The audience breaks into spontaneous applause, causing the host to fidget with his notes. When the clapping subsides, Melania continues, her voice carrying a warmth that contrasts sharply with the host's cold skepticism. You know what I find interesting? How quick some people are to judge a marriage they know nothing about, how eager they are to reduce a complex, loving relationship to something transactional. Perhaps that says more about their values than mine. The host's face reddens slightly as he realizes his strategy has completely backfired. The audience, initially neutral or even skeptical, is now firmly on Melania's side. He glances at his notes, desperately searching for another angle. Since you're so interested in my marriage, Melania says, her composure unwavering, let me tell you about the Donald Trump I know, the man who sits up late at night reading letters from Americans struggling to make ends meet, the husband who still brings me coffee in the morning no matter what crisis he's dealing with. The studio falls into awed silence as she continues. The father who taught his children that their name isn't about wealth or status. It's about integrity, hard work, and keeping your word. These are the things that matter. These are the reasons I stand by him. She leans forward, slightly, her voice carrying quiet conviction. You see, when the cameras are off, when there's no audience, no press, that's when you see a person's true character. And Donald's character has never wavered. Whether dealing with success or challenges, his dedication to his family and this country remains constant. The host, now visibly uncomfortable, attempts to interject. But surely, no, Melania says firmly, let me finish. You asked about money, about wealth. But true wealth isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in loyalty, in dedication, in the courage to stand up for what you believe in despite constant criticism. By those measures, my husband is the richest man I know. The audience erupts in applause again, longer this time. Several people stand. The host glances off stage, perhaps hoping for a commercial break, but finds no escape from the situation he's created. When Donald and I first met, Melania continues, her voice carrying a warmth that fills the studio, he asked about my dreams, not my bank account. He wanted to know my thoughts, not my dress size. That's the man I married. Someone who sees beyond the surface, who values substance over status. She straightens in her chair, her eyes meeting the host's now uncertain gaze. You asked earlier if I would stay with Donald without his wealth. Let me be clear. I stay with Donald because of who he is, not what he has. I've seen him face unprecedented attacks with unwavering courage. I've watched him sacrifice comfort and convenience to fight for what he believes is right for America. The host attempts one last weak defense. But the public perception, Melania cuts in smoothly, is shaped by people like you who can't seem to understand that a woman might choose her partner based on character rather than currency, who can't grasp that real love isn't about profit and loss statements. Her voice takes on a gentle but firm tone that commands attention. You know what Donald said to me during one of our most challenging times? He said, Melania, they can take everything we own, but they can't take our love for each other or this country. That's the man I married. That's the man I love. The studio erupts in thunderous applause. Even some of the camera crew are nodding in approval. The host, now visibly deflated, shuffles his notes one last time. His voice has lost its earlier arrogance, replaced by a subdued tone. Well, that's certainly a different perspective than what's often portrayed in the media. Perhaps, Melania responds with quiet confidence. That's because some of the media are more interested in creating narratives than understanding truth. They prefer simple stereotypes over complex realities. She glances at the audience, many of whom are still standing, and continues, You know what surprised me most about becoming First Lady? Not the criticism. I expected that. What surprised me was how many Americans saw through the noise and understood what Donald and I have always known. That love, loyalty, and dedication to service are what truly matter. The studio remains transfixed as she delivers her final thoughts. My husband isn't perfect. None of us are. But he's a man who loves his family and his country with everything he has. And at the end of the day, isn't that what really counts? The host merely nods, any trace of his earlier smugness completely erased. It's clear to everyone in the room. His attempted takedown has transformed into a powerful testament to love and commitment. Some people thought they had Melania Trump figured out. They saw the glamour, the wealth, the lifestyle, and convinced themselves that's all there was to see. But today, she showed us something far more valuable than any material possession, the power of true love and unwavering loyalty. In a world where relationships often seem disposable and marriages of convenience are all too common, Melania Trump reminded us what real commitment looks like. She showed us it behind the headlines and political drama. There's a love story, one built on mutual respect, shared values, and genuine understanding. What started as an attempt to embarrass her turned into a masterclass in grace under pressure. More than that, it became a powerful reminder of what truly matters in life. Not the size of your bank account, but the strength of your character. Before you go, take a moment to like this video and subscribe. Until next time, thanks for watching.